Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be my review of the Suicide Squad. This is the soft reboot from the original 2016 movie, and this one is directed by James Gunn. I'm sure a lot of you already know who that is because he's the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 movies, and I really like him as a director, and I gotta say, I really did like this movie, which is surprising because DC is kind of hit or miss, but I would say a lot of the more recent movies have been a lot better. But anyways, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you guys haven't seen the movie yet, don't worry, nothing is going to be revealed in this review. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So this movie is super gory. If you're someone who's a little squeamish around a lot of blood, this movie might be a little unsettling for you because there is a lot of it in this. I was not expecting that much, gore to be in this movie, but after 15 minutes, I was like, holy crap, we are going in this direction, James Gunn. Okay. It is rated R, so I guess I should have expected it to be really bloody, but I just wasn't expecting it to be that bloody. So like I said at the beginning of the video, this movie was a soft reboot, meaning that they took some elements from the original 2016 movie, brought it over into this one, but didn't really acknowledge almost anything that happened in the original, which I'm totally fine with because the first one I didn't really enjoy that much. Like, there was definitely scenes that I really liked in that movie, but it wasn't a great movie overall. And this movie starts off very quickly. Like, they could have easily set up maybe, I don't know, maybe like an hour to kind of set up what the Suicide Squad is and make the team. They spent like 5 minutes, and it was actually pretty refreshing because I didn't want to, do the whole thing that we did in the first movie. The ball got rolling as soon as the movie started, which I really appreciated from James Gunn because that gave us more time with the characters going on the mission. And speaking of the characters, they were all really enjoyable. A lot of them I have never even heard of before, and I'm a huge DC comic book fan, and I think that's where James Gunn works best. He grabs the characters that nobody really knows and makes them household names. Like, look at what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Almost nobody knew who they were. Now pretty much everybody does, and Guardians of the Galaxy is a huge franchise, and he's doing the same thing with the Suicide Squad. The fact that the average person is going to know who Ratcatcher is, Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Weasel, Javelin, all these random crazy DC characters is pretty awesome, and I just think James Gunn is a pretty special director in order to do something like that because I think a lot of directors would struggle using those kind of characters. But anyways, they all really work together. Like, I think he focused a good amount of the movie on each individual character and their story, and then intertwined them towards each other. Like, you had Bloodsport's character tying in with Ratcatcher 2, then you had Ratcatcher 2's story tie in with King Shark. Peacemaker and Bloodsport were really intertwined as well. And speaking of Peacemaker and Bloodsport, they had my favorite scene in the entire movie. They were basically one-upping each other, doing a killing spree, and I know a lot of people have mentioned this in their reviews. They're saying that that scene was awesome, it was so good, and the reason why they're saying that is because it's true. Like, that was literally my favorite scene in the entire movie, and right after that scene there's a bit of a twist, and I did not see that coming, and I gotta say that was just a great scene overall. And speaking of Peacemaker, I gotta say John Cena actually did a really good job with this character. He was really funny, he was really serious, he was really menacing, and this guy is shredded, man. Like, I'm looking at this dude on the movie screen and I'm like, holy smokes, this guy is dieseled. And then on top of that, you've got Idris Elba having a great performance as Bloodsport, and he did great as well. And Bloodsport's actually a pretty cool character. Like, all of his weapons and stuff were ingrained into his suit, so when he runs out of weapons, he's just kind of helpless. Well, I guess he's got really good combat skills, but like, it was just really cool to see him like pull stuff off of his suit and use it as like a gun or a knife or a sword. Margot Robbie had another great performance as Harley Quinn. She had really awesome character development because she's no longer with Joker and she's being more independent, and she's setting standards for her new boyfriends, which you'll kind of discover a little bit in this movie. But overall, she had a really good performance, and I just love watching her as Harley Quinn on the big screen. And now for my favorite character in the movie, which was King Shark, or Nanaue. He was awesome. He's basically the equivalent of Groot in the DCEU. King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone, was just so good in this movie. Super funny, and you really feel for the character. Like, he's basically like a baby. He doesn't form like full sentences or anything, and you really feel for this guy. Like, he has no friends. He had so many good scenes in this movie, whether that was action, comedy, or just a really dramatic scene. And I gotta say, the CGI was awesome as well, because one of the things that I was worried about when I was watching the trailer for the Suicide Squad was that King Shark looked really cartoony, almost like a video game cutscene or something. But in the movie, he really looks like a real shark, which I was really impressed with, because like I said, in the trailers, it was really concerning. I was like, oh my god, please tell me they're not gonna butcher King Shark. But after watching the movie, I gotta say the VFX team did great with King Shark. Now for the villain of the movie, which is Starro the Conqueror. Conqueror, which is a really underrated villain in my opinion. I know a lot of the average people who don't really read a lot of comic books or have a lot of knowledge about the comic books are kind of looking at this villain as like, what the heck is this giant starfish doing in a giant blockbuster movie? I've seen a lot of people be like, that is a stupid villain, that's so dumb, which I totally understand where you're coming from, because like if you don't really read a lot of comic books about Starro, I would think the same thing. A giant starfish, that's kind of dumb. But Starro's actually a pretty cool villain. Like, this dude is a giant starfish that has little spores that can fly out and attach to people's faces, and then he gains control of their bodies and can make his own army. That's pretty cool and pretty menacing, and at the same time he's also taken control of the Justice League in comics too. So Starro is definitely a Justice League level villain, but the only negative I had with Starro in this movie is that he wasn't really in the movie that much. He's one of those villains in comic book movies where they show up in the final act and they just have to fight and take down the villain, but I prefer when the villain is present throughout the whole movie. Like, just picture Infinity War with Thanos only popping in the third act, but missing all of those other fight scenes that happen throughout the movie. I don't think Thanos would have been as good of a villain if that was the case, so that's the only real negative I had with the movie, was that I just wanted more of Starro. But I gotta say, what James Gunn did with Starro was actually really interesting. Starro's story is all about governments and lab testing and all that kind of crazy stuff. Of course, I'm not going to spoil what actually happens with the Starro character, but some of it is really graphic and it just shows you how powerful this, supernatural starfish is. And the CGI again on Starro was incredible, just like on King Shark. And I'm just glad that James Gunn picked Starro as the villain, because I don't think a lot of directors would. Starro is just one of those characters where I think a lot of people would look at that and be like, this is just dumb, like this is not going to work in a movie. But James Gunn made it work. Like, I thought Starro was pretty decent. And he has a really tragic line at the end where you really feel for the character and don't see him as like a complete villain, which was the cherry on top for the Starro story in this movie. Although, like I said, this wasn't the best comic book movie villain of all time by any means, but it was okay and it worked for the movie. Now guys, for my rating of the movie, I'm gonna give The Suicide Squad by James Gunn a B+. I thought it was a really solid movie. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of comedy, a lot of action, and a lot of gore. Some pretty awesome characters that James Gunn makes us care about, and I think he did a great job with his first ever DC movie, and I'm really excited for his Peacemaker HBO Max series as well, because I think he's going to do great with that series and John Cena. And like I said, Peacemaker was one of my favorite characters in this movie, so I just can't wait to see more of him. But yeah, The Suicide Squad is a solid time. It's a really good movie to just go in, eat popcorn, and enjoy. The characters are great, and you really care about them, like you really do, which I didn't really get with the other DC movies. I never really had like an attachment with the characters that much, but James Gunn is really good at making team movies and having characters that people actually care about, and he brought that with this movie. So guys, if you watched The Suicide Squad already, let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about it and what your rating was out of 10. This is a movie that I definitely want to watch again, which I couldn't say about the first Suicide Squad movie. Like, after I watched it one time, I was like, okay, I don't need to watch this again. Maybe like some clips of Deadshot and Harley Quinn, but that's really it. This movie was a lot better, and I'm really hoping that we do get the Ayer cut as well, because I know he posted like this whole thing. It was like 3 pages long about what happened to his movie and how the studio messed it up, and I really want to see what his original vision was, because we got Zack Snyder's original vision with his Justice League, and it was way better. So I'm really hoping that we do get the Ayer cut of the original Suicide Squad. But James Gunn's Suicide Squad was really good, and I'm really happy for James Gunn, and I can't wait to see what he does next. But anyways guys, this is the end of the review. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video.